Hello, and welcome to the wonderful winter clear release YouTube hop for Sweet November Stamps. I am Amy. I am co-owner and illustrator for Sweet November Stamps. And boy, do we have a lot of cool and pun intended and just downright adorable inspiration from the team for you here during our YouTube hop that we've got going on starting today. If you are on Instagram, yesterday we started up our Instagram hop for this clear release celebration. And for both of those, we, as always, have the entire clear stamp release up for grabs for one lucky winner for each hop. And over on Instagram, there is also a chance to earn a exclusive free digi during the event as well for free. So you'll want to check that out. Check out the Sweet November Stamps Instagram account for all the information there. But we're here on YouTube and we're going to do some coloring today. So I thought it would be fun to use some of the cute characters from our brand new Baby Bominable Winter Wonders stamp set. And we're going to be creating kind of a bird's eye view snow angel scene using this little cutie here, who's perfect for creating snow angels, but can also just kind of be leaping for joy as well. So he doesn't have to be laying down, and same goes for his little penguin friend here. We're going to be using both of those, and I've paired them with the older snow angel set. It's actually on our retired list. But I liked the tree trunks for this set because obviously this has a little angel making a snow angel as well. So perfect opportunity to take those tree trunks and put them in a scene with our little Bominable here and his penguin friend. And we're going to color up. Mainly, it's going to be the focus is on, creating the shading in the snow to give it that look. So it's not a flat white scene here, that we have some dimension to it and interest added through our coloring. And let's get to it. I'm going to talk my way through the whole scene. So it's going to be a longer one. So I don't want to make you wait too long before we get going here. All right, and we're going to start with the snow itself. And I'm actually going to start with like a BV31. Now I'm using Copic markers on Catherine Pooler Select White Cardstock here today. Now, the first thing I want to decide is, where's my sun shining from? And I'm going to have it coming in from the right-hand side so that I can have fun pulling shadows. Actually, I am going to keep right-hand side, but instead of upper right, I think I'm going to go lower right since they are laying on the ground. That way I can have fun pulling my shadows from the trees off in that direction, which is going to add a lot to our scene as well. And so what this means by establishing my light source is I'm just going to start with this BV31, which is going to be one of the darker colors in my snow. And opposite my light source, I'm going to just create a little bit of a halo around our little baby Bominable here. Where he's had pushed the snow out as he's moved his arms and legs around. Now we are going to push the snow even further, but I don't want to do it with my darkest shadow yet. But I'm going to put in my darkest all around all my little characters. I'm really going to map out. It's going to help me visualize where that sun is shining from. So I'm just going heavier, you know, behind like little heads, the feet here, a little bit lighter since my sunlight's coming in this direction. That way. So now I'll do the same for my trees. And I'm just going to pull my shadow color from behind that tree. Out across the snow. Again, not all the way because we want it to kind of lighten as it moves away from the trunk of the tree. But I am going to start feathering that in. You can see I'm using the kind of more side of the nib here, get a nice wide path of color there. And then we'll do the same. We're not going to see as much of the shadow here just because of the position of the tree, but we'll see a little bit directly behind it over here. Just do little dips where the snow's kind of piled up around the base of that trunk. Okay. And then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to hint at some of the bare branches of the tree that are kind of out of the scene. They're above us. We don't see the branches themselves, but we're going to see their shadows that they're casting on the snow. So I'm just going to imagine where some of those lower branches on each of these trees is going to kind of cast a shadow out, which is again just going to help add interest to this expansive white scene and break up all of that white just a little bit more. Okay. Let's go 000. There we go. So I'm just extending out because we want to create that snow angel effect, like he's been kind of pushing out the snow. So I'm going to feather that out a lot like we did up on our tree there, using that side of that nib for a really light pull out of color between his legs because he's, you know, moving them back and forth to create that snow angel. And we don't have such a, you know, it's not so pushed out up around the head because he's not moving his head around. It's just those arms and legs that he's waving around, creating that kind of shadow space. The wings of our snow angel here. We'll do the same down here on our little roly-poly penguin. His shadow, you know, he doesn't have as quite as far of a reach with his little wings as our little Bominable does. So his little shadow's a little bit tighter up there. I'm going to pull out our tree shadow, extend that with this lighter BV. So And, oh, I forgot to, the other thing I wanted to add in is some little footprints leading to where they are making their snow angels. And then we'll have the little flippers prints from our little penguin waddling into the scene. Just kind of making little ellipses shapes, nothing too specific here, just little kind of like bean shaped. Of course added toes on his, but not too hard. And already with just these two colors, we're already, look at the, we've basically, you get a very established scene already happening just by laying these shadows in. All right, I'm going to come in with some BV Quad. And I'm just going to lightly feather in some shading here and there out in our snow. So it's not, so it's broken up a little bit. It's not so expansive white everywhere. We are going to be leaving a lot of white in comparison, but I do want to continue to add just a hint of very light shading out and around our little snowy scene here. Really get that arms there. His looks less like an angel and more just kind of like a little roly-poly roundness in the snow over there. Just getting a little bit of color around our trees, even though it's very light. Okay. Now I'm going to start bringing in some blues or blue-greens. Let's see. Let's add in some B00. Just adding a little bit of a blue cast to our snow. And we'll do the same to our tree shadows. Make everything consistent throughout our scene. Just kind of going over all those little elements that I sketched in. I'm going to also bring in some BG70. It's got a lot of gray tone, that whole BG70 family does. So it's going to just tone down the brightness of the colors a little bit. Without having to rely on like gray markers themselves. So sticking with a blue-green, but one with a nice gray tone to it. I'm going to add some tip to tip. I wish there was like a BG71 in between these to kind of bridge, because it is quite a big leap between the two. So until that happens, if it ever happens, I just do rely on tip to tip to get a little bit lighter application of that BG72. This is just going to help deepen our shadows, because that 72, even though I'm trying to knock it back with my 70, a little bit darker color than the BV31 that we started out with. Oops, I keep knocking. Sorry about that. Yoinks. There we go. Just trying to get some more little kind of drifts in my snow here and there. With my B. back to my BV quad. Get a little bit more of that blue violet into our shadows and shading down here. I'm a little bit more heavy-handed with my little drifts of snow down towards the bottom of the card, just because I like to add a little bit more visual weight down there, especially when we're kind of competing. We got a lot of elements up top, so I just wanted to get a little extra color going on in there. And it just kind of alludes not only to like either snowdrifts, but just kind of other things, maybe other trees off screen or bushes or something that they're kind of casting their own shadows into the scene. Just adds, it's just a you know, by just being willing to lay some color down and, you know, be strategic with about the amount of white space that you're leaving. It just helps build that story that you're creating. All right, one last little touch on our snow before we move on is I'm going to take my colorless blender and I'm just going to soften the edges just by a quick little pass using that side of that nib, just to where the transition into the white cardstock just gets really soft and hazy so that we don't see those ends of the brush strokes. So I'm not really going into the actual colored parts too much. It's just kind of playing in that white space between them to kind of soften where the shadow ends and where the, you know, kind of bright white snow begins. Like so. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, let's finish off our scene with our tree trunks. So we'll need to pull out some earth tones. And let's start with an E43. And we'll just get a base coat down. On both of these. Okay. I'm going to jump up to an E47 next, so making a pretty big leap. And I'm just going to use it to trace down some of those artist drawn lines that create the kind of grooves in the bark of the tree. And I'm going to be more heavy-handed with this E47 on the side of the tree that's away from our light that's pushing in from the bottom right. We still want a little contrast here and there, you know, but I'm going to tip my marker so my line work is more narrow as we come around to the front. So I still have a few lines, but I was much more, you know, heavy-handed and more generous with this darker color opposite our light source. And that's going to be part of what helps us create that effect of, you know, kind of light hitting and wrapping around that tree. So now on this side, it's going to be this side over here that's lighter, and this side is going to be our darker, deeper in shadow part of our tree trunk. So more generous with the pressure on the marker over here, wider line work. And then as we kind of wrap around, I tip my marker more tighter line, lighter hand, a lighter touch. Like so. E44. And we'll just continue that same process. So I'm, more pressure on the pen over here on this side of the tree trunk. I'm filling in a lot of the space over there with this E44. And then I start gradually kind of tilting. So we get a lot more of that E43 base showing on this side than we do on that side. We'll do the same over here. So this is the side that's going to be, oops, I got a little, that's okay. We're going to add some little details there at the base anyway. More pressure over on this side. A little bit less over here. Like so. Okay. Back to that E43 and just kind of a wash over it all again. Using the side of that nib. That's really going to meld all three of those colors together. Okay. I also think I want to bring in a little bit of W3, just because we are working in a winter scene. I want to even knock back the earth tone a little bit more and add a little bit of gray to our tree trunks. That really sell that, it's gone dormant for the winter. It's not bright and vibrant like it would be in the spring and summer. There we go. Okay, now I did that little flaw there, which wasn't intentional, but I was planning on, and so it makes it a really easy kind of little hide or a little fix. Around our tree trunks with that E43, I just like to kind of add like some little dead grass growing out and around, the snowpack. So we can have a little, turn that into a little bit of grass peeking through the snow. We'll do the same over here. Again, it's just these little touches that add to the overall just kind of world that you're building for these little characters. So we get a little bit of grass growing in there. Maybe this one's got little seeds on the end of it. Let's do this guy back here. Has little seeds too. Just stipling them on there. There we go. All right, we are finally ready to take on our characters here. I'm going to want, let's see. Let's start with a BV20 on the fur of our little baby Bominable here. And again, keeping consistent with my light source, I'm going to start laying in the shading for the kind of dirty off-white of his fur that I'm going to be creating. Just goes over his entire body here. Flipping the hair. It's got the little cowlick up there at the top of the head. Okay. Next, I'm going to come in with an E40. I'm just going to pull out from that BV20. And start filling in more of that fur. Now, I am going, because I want it to read as kind of an off-white, I am going to be careful about leaving little sections of that white cardstock kind of peeking through. I don't want to color him completely in. I want to utilize that white cardstock to become just another color in this overall combination. I'm going to bring in some W3 again, just like we did on our tree. Just going to kind of pull in little, nice little flicking brush strokes. Hint at, the kind of fur. He is covered in fur. So we want to see some of that texture. Just nice little tapered ends as I pull up and away from the cardstock with each brush stroke. E41. And we're just kind of creating, I'm just going for that kind of dirty off-white. So that's why, the mix of grays and light earth tones, even a little bit of that purple as our base. It's all going to help towards that end. Back to that E40. So you can see, the belly, kind of the side of the leg here, this side of this arm, all staying relatively light, being much more generous with my colors, opposite our light source, just like we did when we were doing the shading on our snow. I'm going to come in with W00. Kind of like how we use the colorless blender out in the snow. It's just a way for me to kind of soften where my colors kind of meet the little sections of white that I'm leaving within his fur. There we go. I'm going to grab just a C3 will do. He's got these two little teeth Just going to do a little drop shadow on the back side of both of those. And then I like to give the little Yetis or Bominables blue face and, you know, blue skin. So that's what we're going to do next. And I'm going to start with a B00. I'm just going to fill that in. His little ears. Just like the trees, just getting a base coat down. And on his little face. Okay. And from there, I'm going to bring out B41. And we're going to start doing our shading. So underneath that hair, on his brow, inside those ears, little dimples. Going to reinforce the little smiley lines underneath his closed eyes there, that bottom lip. Now the soles of his feet are actually going to be pretty bright compared to the rest of him, because that light's coming in from down that bottom right corner. All right, so I'm going to come in with some B45. And we're really going to step up our shading here. So I'm using just the tip of the nib. It'd be like, you know, if you've watched me do like my kind of go-to Caucasian skin tone, this is like the EO4 in that scenario. This is the one that's really going to give us our contrast happening in the skin here. So just using it rather sparingly. Just putting it in kind of strategically. Tops of the toes. Underneath his fur. And just that little crease in the arch of his foot there. Oh, and maybe just a little under the toes too. Give him a little bit of drop shadow. There we go. I'm going to pull that out with some B52. Just a little bit further out than I did with the 45. I'm going to be pretty generous on this forehead back here. That's really going to push that back a little bit more. There we go. Back to the 41. Okay, and then one last pass of the 00. Okay, through the center of the face there. All right. Now that his little fur has had some time to dry, I'm going to come back in with the E41. Actually, I think I'm going to go 81. Because I just want to break up all that white just a little bit with some more kind of furry textured brush strokes. And this way they'll stand out since we let our base dry a bit first. They won't automatically kind of meld into that everything we've colored previously. And looking for my W0. There, I'm happier with the amount of texture that we're seeing. It's not looking so flat. Nice and off-white and a little bit grungy. You know, he's not taking a lot of baths out there in the winter wilderness. All right, on to our little penguin here. Excuse me. Let's see. Let's pull out that W3 again. And his little white belly. And face. Just a little drop shadow with that W3. W1. A little bit of C0. And just like his little Bominable friend, I'm going to be leaving some of that white cardstock so it doesn't go completely gray, that we still have Nice little, you know, white section on our penguin. Now I'm going to come in with C5. And we'll get a little base coat going on the black part of his body. I'll jump up to C9. Opposite our light source, putting in my darker colors rather sparingly, as always. Just using the tip of the nib. It's easier to add color than it is to take away. So, especially with my dark colors, I always tend to err on the side of caution to start with. I don't want to go too heavy too quick. C7 to pull out the C9. And he's just a little tiny character, so it's not going to take long at all. Back to that C5. And then we'll need some orange for his beak and his feet. Start with some Y35. O4, YR04. Again, the bottom of his feet are going to be the lightest because our light's coming in from that lower right hand side. A little bit more contrast with the YR18. A little swipe of the Y35 just to pull that all together, and we'll be good to go. All right. So there's our bird's eye view of our little baby Bominable and his penguin pal creating snow angels at the base of a little Arctic forest up there. And I am going to pause and race through, get the card all completely done through the magic of editing. You'll be able to see the finished card in just a moment. And there we have the finished card. So I die cut it out, got it on its card base, added the sentiment that comes in that baby Bominable Winter Wonder set. Here it is once again. Part of the new Wonderful Winter Clear Release at Sweet November Stamps. There's the sentiment. There's our little snow angel making Bominable and his penguin pal. Part of that set there. And don't forget, you've got now through Wednesday, December 11th, to hop along and get yourself entered for a chance to win the entire release. Winners will be selected and announced on, I believe, Thursday the 12th here on our Sweet November Stamps YouTube channel. So go enjoy all of the amazing inspiration from the rest of the ladies who are participating. And stay crafty, my friends. Bye.